Good evening, Mercy Rodriguez, mpa520, week 4. This week, we are tasked with expanding on our crisis um, presentation from week 2. So, with crisis leadership, I am examining a major power outage for the city of Azusa. So, a little overview: the city of Azusa, this is going to affect the facilities. So, I will be hitting on 3 seconds, 3 minutes, 3 hours, and 3 days. So with the power outage, it did affect all city facilities. So that could be 15 facilities all affected all at once with no power, approximately 400 employees if it's during the week, possibly hundreds of residents as well if it's during the week. And it would include um, um, d- including fire. It would include county fire and Azusa PD. And city of Azusa has a population of about a little over 48,000 residents. So with 3 seconds, so I chose to focus on the city manager. So it's been 3 seconds, the power is out. Chapter 1, I am looking at formal leadership. So, formal leaders stems from occupying a defined position. With their authority and resources, former leaders generally have some ability to reward and coerce members. So, obviously, our city manager is going to send out a mass text, a mass emergency email for those who have city um, phones that will work in a crisis. Obviously, our computers will be down, but they'll let us know, like, hey, they have the authority, we have the resources. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. Obviously, they in chapter 1 they argue the city manager, they augment their formal or position power with personal power that comes from expertise, wisdom, trust, and likability. The article that I chose is from Dartmouth and Rockefeller leadership teams from 2016, where formal leadership refers to the clear delineated hierarchy of job positions within an organization, and it can be very efficient because everyone has very specific responsibilities to complete. And action is all legitimized. Obviously, he's the city manager. Everyone's going to take his clear directive, which leads me to chapter 2 with the directive style. A directive style leadership is exhibited when a leader lets subordinates know what they're expected to do. It gives direction and guidance. It asks its subordinates to follow the rules and procedures and schedules and coordinates work activities. So obviously the city manager is acting as the formal authority. He issues orders to mobilize public works, emergency personnel. He designates specific shelters if needed, and he assigns staff. He can enforce a curfew. He can request aid from surrounding cities. His communication is clear, it's centralized, and it's updated regularly. Obviously, feedback would be limited during the crisis stage, but he, will follow up with debriefings and he could follow up with assessments. The article for this one that I chose was a case study by Lynchmeyer and Craven in 2021, where they stated that these type of leaders have to pivot their entire team, regardless of the function or role. They have to manage the issue at hand and weather the storm. They have to adjust. They must effectively assess changes in their operating environment, constantly refocus their efforts to ensure everyone is aligned around all the new priorities, and then rapidly act upon them. So with 3 minutes, we have our light and water general manager, who I am going to be focused on, and chapter 3 talked about situational leadership. So this theory emphasizes the necessity for leaders to adapt their style based on the crisis situation. So the light and water manager is going straight to his light and water facilities, his division, and trying to see what is on, what is off, what can we get back on, even if it's temporarily. Obviously, the according to Hershey and Blanchard, um, which founded the situational leadership theory, it's been undoubtedly one of the most popular. And in the immediate aftermath of a power outage, assessing the team's readiness and the urgency of needs is paramount to effective decision making. The article that I found here was from Kendra Sherry in 2025, where she stated that situational model of leadership focuses on flexibility so that leaders are able to adapt according to the needs of their followers and the demands of the situation. Situational leadership theories give greater consideration to the complexity of social situations and the many individuals acting in different roles who will ultimately contribute to the outcome. So my second concept for 3 minutes with the Light and Water General Manager is transformational leadership. This leadership inspires and motivates teams to contribute beyond their typical expectations. So this approach encourages a more innovative solutions during crisis, energizing the team members to face challenges together. And the article I found here was from James O'Dermru from 2013, where he compared transactional to transformational leaders and concluded that transformational leadership enhances the motivation, morale, and performance of followers through a variety of mechanisms. These include connecting the follower's sense of identity and self to the project and the collective identity of the organization, challenging followers to take greater ownership for their work and understanding the strengths and weaknesses of followers so the leaders can align followers with tasks that enhance their performance. So the general manager would know exactly who to task what with, how to get everyone to follow, what the strengths and weaknesses are of his division, and then assign and act accordingly. Next, we have 3 hours. So with 3 hours, I decided to look at IT specialists and analysts, somebody from our IT department. It's been 3 hours. So now we're looking at when will things be up? Now we have been completely dark with very little limited communication. So chapter 5 talked about informal leadership. Informal leaders are those who lack formal positions but nonetheless influence others, no matter whether they support former leaders or not. So with our IT department, they may not be department heads, city managers, they may not have full authority of much, but they are our go-to person to get our systems back up online. The article that I found with informal leadership, I should say, these particular people, they often emerge in response to specific situations where formal leadership is absent or insufficient. Individuals set up to fill leadership voids, especially during times of change or crisis, guiding their peers through challenges. So with this article from Elizabeth Stinsnelli and Timothy Baghurst in 2014, they stated that informal leadership is achieved through an individual's competence, the organizational's culture, and the specific requirements of the situation. The second one is servant leadership. In chapter 6, it speaks that servant leadership is effective leadership, exemplary leadership, and they have concern and care for others. So I just thought with servant leadership, our IT who support all end users and departments, they have a very service mindset. They foster trust and cooperation. They put the needs of others first, helping people to develop and perform. So we already know we can trust them. We already know what their expertise is. We're going to look to them, help us, support us, get us back online. With the article that I found from the Harvard Law School from Katie Schonk, it talked about that how there's very numerous admirable aspects of servant leadership theory that leaders may choose to emulate in their organizations, including an emphasis on fostering employee growth, open communication, and community. And that's exactly what our IT department would be doing for us. Then we go to 3 days, our final timeline, which I've chose to focus on emergency service coordinator. Chapter 7 talked about shared leadership. This theory is based on the normative assumptions that various types of distributed leadership exist and are useful, and that a major role of traditional or vertical leadership is to enhance the capability and motivation to engage in distributed leadership. Our emergency service coordinator now is going to be giving us updates on who's helping us, where we're getting resources. Um, their shared leadership is looked at as the situation becomes more multifaceted. Leadership naturally needs to be distributed across agencies, including public works, health, utility, and law enforcement. This is the position that would be doing it. This would encourage collaboration, information sharing, which decentralizing decision making, which will help speed up the recovery. The article that I found talked about how emergency management is a key government function for mitigating risk and reducing the impacts of disaster. They have a huge stakehold in engagement and adaptability, coordination. They utilize several skills to balance stability and flexibility. They have a shared vision with everybody, very adaptability. They're engaging with all of us, so we're constantly knowing what's going on, and especially after 3 days, we need a different kind of update. Chapter 8 talked about competency leadership, which emphasizes the identification and development of specific skills and behaviors essential for effective leadership, particularly in public sector. And with this, the emergency service coordinator, the role demands a blend of like technical expertise, strategic planning, interpersonal skills, and by adopting Van Wert's competency-based framework, emergency service coordinators can systematically enhance their leadership capabilities, ensuring more effective and responsive emergency management. I'm actually quoting straight from Van Mart and Capuzzi 2011 study where they identified 15 key leadership competencies essential for emergency managers during crisis situations, and it emphasized that while traditional emergency management remains vital, leaders must adapt selectively during crisis. And the findings suggest that effective crisis leadership requires a nuanced understanding of variety of various leadership competencies tailored to specific crisis content. So by this time, this is the person who is going to give us all of the updates, resources, all the information, coordinate with all the crews from Public Works to to the police department, getting all of the utilities, anything that we need to do with our facilities. They're going to be the end person on after 3 days to help us coordinate all that. And that is my presentation. Thank you so much.